I am back, as you can see, to discuss our essay that we read, Should Everyone Go to College by Owen and Sawhill. So I will disappear again, but I just wanted you to see me, I guess. I don't know. Um, just it's always nice to have a face with the voice and all that good stuff. So anyway, on to our discussion about Owen and Sawhill. So our discussion board, you'll see that um, have you ever read an essay like this? Was it easy to read? What's the author's point? This is a different style of essay than you might have read. I hope you've read some sort of academic text like this with charts and graphs and figures. So if you go into Blackboard with the lessons right here, there'll be a link to an annotated version of this essay. You can click on this and it'll take you to this. So I've got some scribbling on it. And this is a good way not only to discuss the essay, but also to show you how we should start interacting with the essays we read. We don't just read and that's it. We want to scribble on our text. So I used my iPad to scribble on this, but you can also use the PDF highlighting tool, which I've also done. So you can download this through Acrobat and then highlight it and type in notes. It's kind of cool. So we look at the title, Should Everyone Go to College? I say, who is everyone? Do they mean everyone? And we have to think about what is the conversation that they are addressing. And I haven't gotten into this yet, but writing is responsive. And so the idea is that they are trying to address a question. There's a discussion about college, and everyone needs to go to college. You yourself might feel like you're pushed to go to college because that's what everyone talks about as a need to get a degree. Are we going to get an answer? What is my answer? My answer is maybe. It depends. And that's actually the author's answer too. It really depends. We might think yes or no. We are given a summary, which is nice. For certain schools, majors, and occupation, individuals, colleges may be a smart investment. But telling all young people that they should go, no matter what, you're doing them a disservice. So that gives us a good idea. This was written by the authors. And so I got a lot of highlights and stuff. It's kind of fun. So this idea of correlation is not causation. Just because you go to college doesn't mean you'll get money or rich. And this is an interesting way to start off. The main problem is one of selection. If the smartest, most motivated people are both more likely to go to college and more likely to be financially successful, then the observed difference in earnings by years of education doesn't measure the true effect of college, meaning that we've got a lot of smart people going to school. Just because you go to college doesn't mean you'll be rich, and being rich isn't a direct result of having gone to college. So there's a lot of variation. So they're looking at this, just because people have gone to college and they have a higher earning doesn't mean that you're going to be poor if you don't go to college. And they looked at some things, comparing various incomes, lifetime incomes, and found out that a year of college will add about $3,000 to a degree, to your lifetime earnings. And they show this chart, wonderful chart right here, your lifetime earnings by educational attainment. So this is all bachelor's degrees. So there's a lot of people, from teachers all the way up to engineers that make up this, and this is all people with high school diplomas. So those are I don't know what they really call those. Those are jobs that don't require a high school diploma. So you could be lots of things that don't have a higher school diploma, and there's no differentiation between this 2-year degree or certificate. So we have to be aware that we aren't getting the complete picture. So that's an interesting thing too. So this essay itself is only looking at 4-year degrees. They say that there are benefits to education, societal benefits, but also that not everybody gets rich. Some people do a specific job that requires a 4-year degree because they want to help others. People that might go into social work or education, or they want to be an artist. Those sorts of things. That's fine. But it looks at growth over a lifetime. And I don't know if this means whether or not you stay in that job. So if you get a bachelor's degree in education, you become a teacher, and you only teach for 3 years, and you burn out, and then you go and do something else. Does that count? I'm not really sure. there's a lot of questions. So it doesn't matter. Is a degree a degree? And some people might say that it's just a piece of paper. I just saw a meme today that said that, a diploma is just a piece of paper that says you know how to follow instructions. So uh, there are people that switch jobs. We know that people switch jobs or career paths 6 to 7 times in their lifetime. So why do we need these 4 years of training? Those are interesting questions to ask. Um, but what Owen and Sawhill are trying to do is they're looking at this bigger picture, and they want to determine what should go into figuring out whether or not you should go to school or to college, that is. And so they look at what's called return on investment. So they're looking at it from a business mindset. And there's a lot of factors: where you go, the selectivity, the cost, financial aid, your major, and what you do with it, and then whether or not you complete that degree. So they break down a lot of stuff, but they talk about ROI, return on investment, which is a different way of thinking it. So if your tuition is $60,000 a year, and you're going to be, I don't know, something that only makes $30,000 a year, that's a bad return on investment because you've paid, uh, twice as much as you would actually earn from it. So if you think about it, 4 years at $60,000, that's $240,000. Well, that's going to take you a long time to pay off those loans. It also looks at competitiveness and your income. And it's interesting, and they point this out, that public institutions have a fairly level return on investment between 9 and 13% return on investment, whereas there's a greater range of about 7-ish, 67-ish to 11. So we're thinking about private and nonprofit. So the Ohio State University or Bowling Green or any state school compared to Harvard or Yale, which is interesting to think about. We, as Edison State Community College, are an open enrollment school, right? State is as well. So we take anybody. And you're not getting less of an education than a very competitive school or less of a return on investment, which is interesting to think about. And there might be factors with that. Also got to consider how much financial aid. Just because Yale costs $60,000 a year to go to doesn't mean you shouldn't apply to go there, because they will offer a substantial financial aid package that might make it the equivalent of going to Ohio State University or something like that, because they factor those things in. So don't avoid these well-known schools just because you don't think you can pay. They might really want you. So those are interesting things to consider. Not every bachelor's degree is a smart investment, right? So they show a nice list right here of these different degrees. Engineering through education, and you think, oh, well, work lifetime earnings, 1.5, this is in millions. And, I can earn twice as much as an engineer as someone who's a teacher, or I don't know what arts means. But, on average, bachelor's degrees have a lifetime earnings of about 2.5 million. Something else I'd like to point out is that this is only 4-year degrees. If we think of the degrees or the jobs that make the money, the doctors, the lawyers, things like that, they aren't listed on here because those are advanced degrees. We also want to consider that in education, even though it's a lower paying job, you do often need a master's degree. So are they factored into here? And I don't know. But they get deeper. So they're looking at data. Not everything is equal. The type of job matters for the most part. You could also get a STEM job with only a high school diploma. And there's websites out there that talk about that you can become a welder. That requires some degree and certification and make $50,000. You can be a nurse with an associate's degree, or a physical therapy assistant with an associate's degree and make decent money. So what is it that you want to do? Are you being pushed towards a bachelor's degree that doesn't apply to your life, isn't what you want to do? Think about those general degrees, business. Are you going to go into management, accounting, or is it just I just want to work in a job, right? Be specific about science, arts, and media. So it looks at the actual work-life earnings of their occupation. Again, architecture and engineering. They talk about this down here. Architects have a high unemployment rate, but they do make a lot of money. So if you're lucky to get a job, you can make a lot of money. Engineering, they're looking for a lot of money, but specific things might make more money than others. So you really need to know your career. What is your path? And I joke over here, people in the arts majors, I say Starbucks doesn't pay. Meaning, if you have one of these, it doesn't look at, service industry. So, if you have a bachelor's degree and you end up working, for Starbucks, McDonald's, or something not related to your field, is it going to pay less? They look at completion, 6-year graduation rate, which is interesting. Not everybody graduates a 4-year school within 4 years, and same thing with 2-year schools. It might take them 4 to 5 years. So you need to know how long it's going to take because you can get burnt out. And we see this right here. The more competitive the school, probably the more likely you are to work hard and complete. Whereas if you're going to a non-competitive open enrollment, you're less likely to compete because you might give up. But it doesn't factor in who else, what else is going on there, such as maybe getting a new job. Other interesting things, if you look at implications. So finally, we get an explanation of what should be done. And we have a nice description of everything from making sure we, as schools, focus on helping students compete or complete their work. How do we do that? Helping students make good decisions on their majors, good advising. And these are things that we are trying to do at our school as well, but also helping students make good choices. What are you going to be doing? So there's a lot of interesting things in here, and we end with a conclusion that is a call to action. We must provide more information in a comprehensible manner, so being better informed about the investment of school. It's no longer just go to school and you'll be rich. It's go to school in these majors at this right school. Second, federal government needs to provide performance-based scholarships to incentivize attendance, and then more alternatives to the traditional academic path. So starting out younger in junior high, high school, helping students understand what jobs they can do. And it's difficult because a lot of students, a lot of kids are asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they're given opinions or responses from adults who are asking those questions. But I do want to point out that we do have some ways to look at some of this stuff. I'm sorry about the scrolling if that makes you sick. There's this college scorecard, and I've entered in for the Ohio area. You can see some basic information. We have our colleges. Let's looking at graduation rate. 90%. Hobart Institute of Welding Technology. This is a trade school, and you can make decent money. Edison State is partnering with Hobart, which is awesome. But University of Dayton, probably the premier private school, $55,000. If you compare that to Wright State, $39,000 salary after attending. We don't know if this is students who are working in their job or not, their chosen career field. But the difference, tuition at Wright State, $16,000, $32,000 at University of Dayton. But the graduation rate, University of Dayton gets you through, Hobart gets you through. We look down at Edison State. We're right here, 24% graduation rate. This doesn't necessarily include students who transfer. So that's an important thing to consider. Or certificates. We have a lot of students taking certificates. Half of our population are College Credit Plus students. So they are only taking a few classes and then transferring. So it really skews our rating. But about $30,000. Same thing as Sinclair, but their tuition is lower because they have a levy. So those of the people in Montgomery County, they pay taxes and they get a lower rate. So it's kind of cool. So this provides you some information. I don't know what the more details does. Shows you where it is. Rural, it's small, and it has more information. Earnings after school. Not a lot of information, unfortunately. But it's a start. Now you can also go to Edison's homepage, and there will be, shut that up, I'm sorry. There will be information just go to academic programs, you're going to start off with these pathways. Um, so it tells you, let's say you want to go into criminal justice, what the courses you need to take, gives you a career outlook, transfer agreements, a part-time map, so you understand what you're getting into. So these are important things. So Owen and Sawhill's essay leads to bigger discussions, and hopefully these are things that you can have with family and friends as you start to figure out what it is you want to do. But the essay enters the conversation, is what we like to say, about college, and then tries to shed some more light and says, well, just saying go to college is not enough. We need to know what college, what you're going to do. And those are all important things. So I hope that's been a little bit more informative for you and helps you personally think about this, because I like students to read this early on, because we need to know what is it we plan to do with our investment in time and money at Edison State. If you have questions, please contact me.